This is the brand new DJI Mavic Air 2 and oh my god, what a drone that is. No more talking, let's go inside. Got the drone, we're super excited guys, but it definitely sucks because of our city's lockdown, so we can't really be flying it a lot. But anyway, I have managed to do some nice shots so that you can enjoy this review. We knew pretty much everything before this drone was even launched. Tons of leaks, probably, you know, camouflage propaganda, were thrown into the internet and most of them were right, but some others just weren't. We're gonna go through everything this new drone brings to the customer, plus we'll be analyzing this move by DJI, trying to understand why they are releasing their highest specs for such a low price, what that means, how this affects the US market, the trade war, and you know, all that. But before we get into that deeper, I know you want to see some footage. I'm sorry, I did what I could from my terrace, but without Chibo and with my mom on the camera is the new Chiba. Let me put you first into perspective. It's been more than 2 years that the Mavic Air 1 was released by DJI, and back then it was a complete revolution. Because of course it was a small foldable drone, it had 4K, it had Full HD at 120 frames per second, and since then, in the past couple of years, DJI has been focusing a lot more on Osmo series and Ronins and all that. Their last drone move was actually the Mavic Mini. And you know, the current situation that we have right now has been complicating everything a little bit. Plus, we've seen in the past months that a couple of brands such as Autel or Skydio have been, you know, pushing and putting DJI with the back against the wall, so they have decided to launch the Mavic Air 2. Oh, and by the way, of course, I am filming a comparison of the DJI Mavic Air 2 versus the 1, versus the Mavic Mini, versus the Mavic 2 Pro, which one to buy, and El Clasico crash test. So guys, it's time to sub to this channel. Oh yes! Let me just say straight away that this drone is spectacular and it blew my mind, and that for just $799 US. A drone that delivers better quality in most things than the Phantom 4 Pro 2.0, and even that the Mavic 2 Pro. Plus it is so small, this is insane. Now let me talk about the most important specs. You don't like the drone? Do you like the drone? The camera sensor. Finally, DJI is moving out from that 2.3-inch sensor that most drones apart from the Mavic 2 Pro and the Phantom 4 Pro, thanks doc, are mounting, and it goes into a half-inch sensor, which of course must be better than also the Osmo Pocket and the Osmo Action sensor. So we can't wait to do comparisons on this drone. Finally, we got the 4K 60 on a Mavic. This is huge and we're going to talk about this later, but we can also do it at 50 and 48 frames per second. What about the HDR video? The first time we saw that on a DJI product was on the Osmo Action, and they have implemented this on this drone. And I'm super excited to see the difference. Even though we can only shoot in 4K 30, here are some examples of HDR video. Now, two super interesting things. First of all, 48 megapixel still images. I mean, this is huge. The Sony that I'm filming this review on has just half the amount of megapixels. So, and second of all, look at this, 34-minute battery flight time, which is almost double than its predecessor, the Mavic Air 1. You know, real minutes are gonna be like 27, 28, but that's a lot. One of my favorite things and the major improvements on the Mavic Air series is OcuSync 2.0. Finally, the Mavic Air 2 goes with OcuSync 2.0, which means that on FCC it goes with a range of up to 10 kilometers and CE 6 kilometers. There won't be much problems and interferences as we had on the Mavic Air 1 or as we have it in some lower drones. So this is for me one of the best things. The focus track. One of the hottest topics in the drone business in the past months since the Skydio was released was that DJI had a bad active track and it wasn't optimized. Now the DJI Mavic Air 2 brings us the active track 3.0, the Spotlight 2.0, the Point of Interest 3.0, and APA Yes 3.0. Now, I haven't been able to test it, of course, on my terrace. It wouldn't make much sense, and I'm not allowed to leave home, so as soon as I can, I will test it. But from what I've read and what I've seen, it's huge. It's amazing. It's a killer. I can't really wait to test that. Let me just also highlight the 120 megabits per second bitrate that this drone has, where the Mavic 2 Pro only has 100 megabits per second bitrate. The two last things to finish off this part: AirSense. The versions in Canada and in the USA will have that AirSense that basically will tell you as a pilot that other aircrafts are nearby, so that you are more careful. And second, and finally, of course, the price, $799 US. We'll talk about why this drone is so cheap, but it's a killer. To finish off this part, the versions that will come. How does the new Mavic Air 2 feel in my hand? Well, actually, it feels pretty solid, and unlike the Mavic Mini, back when we reviewed it, we said it was a little bit more like a toy drone where you could bend the props, you could even bend a little bit the arms, of course, for this weight. The Mavic Air 2 is way more solid, and it reminds me way more of a Mavic 2 series drone. Because basically, even though there's a huge weight difference, the Mavic Air 2 is only 570 grams. They are pretty similar, and in size, of course, the Mavic Air 2 is smaller, but I can trust this drone, this newer drone, that when doing, for example, our crash tests, it will resist pretty much everything. What about the controller? People were unhappy when the leaks were out there on Twitter, and I have to say, after testing it for a couple of days now, I'm super happy because it really fits perfectly in my hands. The fact of not having a screen is not a problem. I mean, what do you use the screen for on some older controllers, right? In the end, you're gonna just be looking at your phone and tweaking stuff on your phone, so there's no need of that. And not having any buttons here in the back, like C buttons or anything, is also pretty decent. It is big, not necessarily too big, even though once you put your phone out and you can save the cable, which is also something really, really nice that they have done, it is not that big. I mean, and of course you can store the sticks down below here, which is also pretty nice. And I didn't want to end this part of the video without thanking that we have also received a nice Mavic Air bag, and of course the drone fits perfectly here inside with a couple of extra batteries, the filters and everything. So this is how it actually looks like. They have also been kind to send us some prop guards, and this is how the drone looks with the prop guards if you're a beginner. And finally also a set of DJI filters, which are pretty awesome, and some of the footage you've been seeing, especially at daylight, has been shot with a ND64 filter. Oh, and by the way, also we got this charging hub, which charges simultaneously 3 batteries, so you don't have to charge and change every single time the battery for charging another one. Finally, the DJI FlyUp. I am super happy to be using the FlyUp because when we tested it on the Mavic Mini, I was super excited because I never really liked the DJI Go 4UP. For me, it had some complications that were really unnecessary for pilots, and especially for beginners. The DJI FlyUp for me is way simpler. You can go and put the settings that you want just by hitting once or twice the screen, so it has made life even easier if that was possible. Now, a new section that we're going to do from now on, named Enigmas. I want to have a short section in every review that makes you think a little bit, interpret stuff, and, you know, not just giving you specs and say this is blah 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 blah, enjoy, but asking why have they decided to do this and this, why they did decide to hide some other stuff, what does this mean for the market, how will this affect other companies, and so on. So, welcome to Enigmas. Until now, we always had the feeling when DJI released a drone that they were keeping high-end specs and some major improvements hidden because they didn't really need to launch all their tech, as there were no real threats to dethroning them. But a few things have been changing for a few months now, and that drew completely a different scenario. And by that I don't necessarily mean all the current pandemic situation that we're living, which of course may have affected, I can imagine, by de-accelerating production, assemblings and deliveries, same as happened, for example, to my sunglasses brand, but this doesn't seem to be a big argument to explain what they are exactly doing now. I'm talking about politics, and to get the full picture, DJI has always had the US market as their #1 resource. Last numbers numbers on a super interesting Bloomberg's report, which I'll leave you the link in the description, showed us that DJI was managing 77% of US drone market's share, which is really huge. I can't really think of many businesses in the world that have such a big share. But anyway, Trump's trade war coming and going, his threats to suspend DJI drones in the US, and everything politically going on over the past year has for sure scared DJI. Plus, we'll see how Trump reacts after this pandemic towards China, which he is already threatening. It's understandable that DJI may be shaking a bit now. And we have to add that other American or semi-American drone companies such as Skydio or Autel have been releasing super powerful drones. The DJI Mavic Air 2 comes with all the latest and most advanced technologies that can be mounted on such a small drone, honestly. Apart of course from not mounting a 1-inch sensor that would absolutely make no sense if you want to keep selling the Mavic 2 Pro. When I was first reading the specs of the Air 2, I was like, no, this can't be, this must be a mistake. It's too good for the price, and you're completely blowing out the Mavic 2 Zoom and tons of sales of the 2 Pro. And then I kept thinking about the situation and thought, damn, DJI must be really with their bags on the walls to make this step. So they are basically not giving the Air 2 the sensor and all that Hasselblad technology, plus they have kept a few other things, such as you won't be able to use the goggles on the Air 2. And another interesting fact is, what the hell is this launch time? Normally, they have been releasing drones so that they covered night in China, afternoon in Europe, and early mornings in the US. But now they completely erased Europe. It's gonna be 3:30 a.m. for me, and China is early in the morning, and the US has the best time. This is definitely a move to preserve the US market. Coming back, I mean, the drone with those specs and for just $799 is just unbeatable. You just can't. There's no Skydio or Autel or anything that can compete with that right now. If I wouldn't have a drone, I would definitely go for the Mavic Air 2, but if I have any other drone that is no Mavic 2 Pro, bro, this is outplaying them all as well. Frodo must be happy. It's the drone to rule them all. I've always taken my Air 1 to the trips over the Mavic 2 Pro or the P4P 2.0, but now, man, with a way better video output, that flight autonomy on the battery, if I had any doubt before, it's completely gone by now. I don't know by now if DJI will manage to produce or already has produced thousands of units that they're probably gonna sell of this drone within days, but I also think that if we follow the track record of how they have been changing prices over the last months, I would recommend it to buy as long as it's $799. I'm pretty sure prices will go up in the next weeks. We don't know either how this current health situation will affect production dates and or deliveries. But what I can tell you, many people stuck home without having too many expenses are killing it on the net buying lots of stuff, some of them not really helpful. So it's definitely not a bad moment for this release. And the last couple of things. Why is the design similar to the Mini or the Mavic 2s? Well, it seems obvious that if you want to get into people's minds through branding, the best thing you can do is have very similar products with different specs or prices. The Air 1 was the last drone that was a little bit far from the design and the feeling. We don't even know if DJI designed it by themselves or they purchased the design or whatever. Plus, there was a time a few years ago that when you talked with someone about drones, I can remember that all they got in their minds was a Phantom. The Phantom frame got deep into people's brains, and now they are trying to do the same with the Mavic line. And finally, for who is this drone? Well, with this technology at that price, I don't think it's crazy to say that pretty much for everyone, from beginners to professionals that want to make decent productions, honestly. Just to sum up, what can we expect as DJI's next move? Well, I don't really know. I believe with the Air 2 relaunching the P4P 2.0, they want to calm Autel's and Skydio's booms, and I don't think before 2021 we'll see any other drone. I'm also pretty sure that the Air 2 was meant to be launched sometime later this year, but everything has rushed them to advance things. Well guys, thanks for watching. It's been a different kind of review. Of course, the situation is what it is, and I hope that you liked it anyways. Leave the thumb also for my mother on the camera, and if you have any comments, any doubts, any questions, any videos that you want us to do, because we now have the time to do everything you want, please leave that in the comments. That was my dog. Sub if you're not subbed yet, and of course, as I told you, comparisons are coming, El Clasico crash test is coming. Nothing really else to say, guys. Always remember to keep calm and talk UAV. Ahora, tomar por culo.